Okie dokie. So, since Matthew asked the question and we don't have a good meeting time to link up, I figured I would just share. Let's take a look at NAV 5. And if we go into the Object Designer, which is the old Navision way of looking at objects, we can see here we've got a report object, and I'm going to use this customer item statistic by salesperson report, which if we take a look at how that runs, it does by salesperson, by salesperson, by company, customer, all of the item sales and some info about it, along with some different totals. And then that carries along and along till eventually you get some different customer totals, salesperson totals, report totals. So how the heck does this report get constructed? This is pre-RDLC. So if we look at design mode for this, we can see that we have the old style still works in the concept of data items, and these are coming from different tables. So we're getting stuff from the salesperson purchaser table, the customer table, and the value entry table. The equivalent to the columns that we see in BC is up here under the view menu. If we look at the field, not field menu, geez, it's been a while since I've worked with this too. Brain, go on. Oh, right, we don't actually do any columns at all. That's not relevant to this. It's all in this view sections. So let's take a look at the sections. This is the old pre-RDLC editor for report design. It looks a little funky if you're not used to it, but believe it or not, it was actually a really, really powerful reporting engine, and I still miss it in some ways because there are some things you can do in this you couldn't do in RDLC, but to be fair, vice versa as well. For each data item level, you get potentially a variety of different sections, and you can have multiple of each section types. So here on the salesperson purchaser level, we have multiple headers, as we can see here. We've got about 6 of those. Some of these are going to be carried across different pages, and then we have the actual body loop. So for each of the salesperson purchaser records, we're going to print this line. Then, just like the data link in the modern RDLC, we have the link reference. And if we look at the customer, this one is not linked at all because we're just wanting all customers for each salesperson purchaser. But we have this little print only if detail. So if this customer has no transactions for a given salesperson purchaser, it's automatically skipped. And then we come down to the value entry and we see it's a bit more complex of a connection here, the data item link. You can see this is where the BC data item link came out of. You can see this is kind of the same structure. In the old GUI, we also had an editor where we could pick the fields and that would make those connections for you. So this string would actually be built by that UI. Same for the data item table view, by the way, is that we can pick from the available keys from a list. You can choose the order, and then you can build a mapping table, and this is where all of those const or filters came from that we see in the string, is these were originally options in here. We also have some powerful stuff in here around things like here we can see on the value entry level, we are doing some grouping totals by items. So that's a little bit of an interesting thing to be aware of. Now going back to our customer layer, we have the customer body is the only piece that we have for this besides the footer down below, which we'll get to in a sec. And then under the customer, we have value entry, and we can see the value entry, we only do something called a group footer, followed by a footer. Now, the group footer is because on the value entry, we're grouping by item number. So automatically for each and every item number, it's going to produce a footer per item. And all of these fields inside of here, like invoice quantity, sales amount, profit, are automatically made as part of the sums of the value entry, which I'm going to double check, make sure that's not, there might be, yeah, there it is. There is some code here in current report that says, I want you to automatically make me some totals on these fields. So it will automatically do the equivalent of, the variable equals variable plus this record. It's auto doing that for us behind the scenes. And in the group footer, it knows that the context here is that the sales amount field, one of our group total fields, is going to automatically sum per item. And then we have a footer for the value entry, which is just for the entire loop of run for the value entry, which is per customer. So nice and easy, we therefore have the customer totals for those things. And then up here at the customer level, we have the customer footer, which at the end of a run of the loop through the customers, all the relevant records are per salesperson. So that gives us our salesperson footer. And then finally, at the very end, the footer for the salesperson is all the values for the whole run. And as you can see here, things like some of these will be referring to just the fields itself. We're not even saying that these are calculated values. This source expression is just saying literally the value entry sales amount actual, and that's because there is a group totals on it. So it automatically knows in this context that it should be a total. There are other bits and pieces that you'll run into in the old layout. You can see up here in these headers that they're showing if there are any filters that are being run. If you do F9 on the keyboard, which is the shortcut for cal code, you can see that it decides whether or not it should show this output based on a few things. Like, for example, if you're printing to Excel, we're not going to show it. If this is the first page, we'll show it, and the filter string is not blank. So this header will only show on page 1 if you're not printing to Excel and if there's a filter string on customer. So hopefully that at least gets you going. It's not enough to learn how to build, but at least that'll let you look at a report and say, okay, well, that's the information. Additional little bits and bobs, how do you add stuff? Like, for example, on the salesperson purchaser, we see that there's code and name. So how do you potentially, for example, add like their phone number, email address for the let's just take a look here. So yeah, phone number. So in the field menu here, if we click now in the box with that selected, whoop, it drops in the phone number and a caption for that. And we need to drag this caption, which is a bit taller. We need to drag that caption up into the header. And because we've done it that way, it knows they're connected. So when you click on the phone number, it shows the dotted line goes up to that. And that's the old style reporting way of showing you that this is going to automatically get its caption value from this field that this is referencing. So now we have a nice, easy phone number field on our salesperson's record. But anything more complicated than that is a heck of a class to cover, but that'll at least get you started. Hope that helps.